Well, I've had this FX 25 caliber pellet gun for a couple of weeks now, and I must say that I'm pleased with the performance so far. I'll even go so far as to say that I'm well pleased. The accuracy out to 50 yards, at least for now, is superb, and the reason I chose this gun was it's possible to recharge it in the field with the charging handle, so you don't need the extra paraphernalia of tanks and hoses and such to keep it going in a field situation. I've actually taken the gun hunting a couple of times, and so far, with the exception of one cottontail rabbit that I misjudged the distance on grossly, it's dispatched everything that I've pointed it at. What I'd like to do now is try to pin down what the operational range of this gun really is. We tried some experiments at 100 yards the last time. We had a little wind blowing, and it wasn't ideal circumstances, and I wasn't really satisfied with the results. So I've got some new pellets here that I want to try out and try and get it when the wind's not blowing up here, and we can get an idea of what the operational range of the gun is. Now that's important if we're going to use the gun for hunting, which is kind of what we're aiming at here. There's several reasons to use an air gun for small game hunting, and some of them I didn't even realize before I started doing this, and we'll talk a little bit about that at the end. Right now what I'd like to do is talk about some of the limitations and caveats that if you're going to get engaged in this whole idea of using an air rifle for serious hunting, you're going to have to know. And one of them involves force. If we go back to a formula that I remember from high school, that force equals mass times acceleration, then we have to have a good understanding of that with this air gun problem, and you'll see why in just a second. If we take a look at the extremes, here we have an elephant gun cartridge. This is a 495A square. It's a Wildcat based on a 460 Weatherby, necked up to 50 caliber. This is a solid bronze piece of metal that's actually machined out on a lathe that comes in at about 600 grams. It's designed to bust through the skull of an elephant and take him out at short range. Now, following our formula, force equals mass times acceleration. This bullet has a lot of mass. At over 600 grains, you multiply 600 times, let's say 2,400 feet per second that it's coming out of the barrel, and you come up with a big number. It's not really going all that fast compared to some of the other stuff out there, but it does have a lot of weight to it. So the force that this bullet is going to hit that elephant with is amazing. And yes, I have shot it, and it does hurt. Now let's compare something on the other end of the spectrum, more along the lines of acceleration. Here's a Ruger 204. That's either a 40 or a 32 grain bullet. Not very big. Matter of fact, it's not much heavier than these little pellets that I've got here. But this thing comes whistling out of the barrel at 4,000 feet per second. So you multiply 4,000 times 32, and again you come up with a pretty big number. Not nearly as much as the heavier 495 round, but still. This has a lot of force to it. This bullet was designed for varmint hunting or pelt hunting, where you want the bullet to go in, explode inside the animal, cause massive trauma, and not come out the other side with a huge exit wound for those guys that want to save their bobcat pelts or the coyote pelts. 4,000 feet per second is really cooking, but it doesn't have much weight to it, so it's not going to come in with as much force as the other round did. I haven't actually got a coyote with this yet, so I can't tell you how that theory holds up as far as going in, blowing up, and not coming out, but I can tell you that it pretty much disintegrates a rabbit. So now if we look at something kind of in the middle, here we've got a 7mm Remington Magnum, and this bullet's designed to shoot long distances and still have enough force to put down something the size of an elk at possibly 1,000 yards. This bullet comes out of the barrel at 3,150 feet per second. It's what they call a VLD, or very low drag bullet. It's long and skinny and sharp, designed to penetrate through the air with minimal drag. And this bullet will remain supersonic or hypersonic from the time it leaves the barrel till the time that it gets out to 1,000 yards, possibly beyond, depending on altitude, temperature, and all that kind of stuff. Now we look at the lowly pellet. About 30 grams, a little bit less maybe. Not very big, not much mass to it. So if we multiply 30 times 900 feet per second, we come up with a small number. And the point being here is you can still dispatch small game, even up to the size of a coyote or a bobcat, with this little 25 caliber pellet. But there's caveats involved in that. Since it doesn't have much force, the shot is going to have to be exact. There was an old African professional hunter years ago, supposedly the story goes, that a reporter asked him, "So Reginald, why do you shoot dangerous game with a 600 Nitro Express?" And he thought about it for a second and looked at the guy like he was a complete idiot, and his response was, "Because they don't make a 700 Nitro Express." That's since been rectified. But anyway, the idea of using a heavy, high mass caliber bullet to impart as much force as possible certainly has some following. You can see that with this bullet we don't have a whole lot of force, so our shot is going to have to be precise in order to dispatch the animal. We're going to need two things. We're going to need enough velocity and mass to penetrate whatever area of the animal we're shooting at, and it's going to have to be a critical area. The reporter later asked the same old boy, he says, "So Reginald, where should you shoot dangerous African game?" And the answer was, anywhere in the eye. So your motto as an airgun hunter should be, if you don't hit them in the eye, you missed. And that's part of the challenge of it. And I like shooting air gun because I use it to hone my form, if you will, for shooting the high-powered rifles. And the more practice you get in, the better you're going to be. So, force times mass equal acceleration. If you're going to hunt with an air gun, the air gun is going to have to be accurate. And you're going to have to put a good shot on whatever creature you're shooting at in order to make a nice, clean kill shot. Nobody likes to see animals suffer unless you're sick. So that's what we're trying to do, is determine how good we can get with this and make a nice, clean kill shot on whatever animal we're going after. All right, we talked a little bit about the mass part of the equation in the force times, or force equals mass times acceleration. Let's talk a little bit about the acceleration side of things. Theoretically, if we could get our little 30 grain pellet going a gazillion feet per second, then we could make that equation work out so that the mass times the acceleration works out to the same force as the 600 grain bronze elephant gun round. In real life, even if we could get it going that fast, it would probably vaporize as soon as it left the barrel, because the heat generated from the friction of the air would be so intense that it would just melt it. I don't know that, but I'm just guessing. I do know, as a commercial airline pilot, that the area around Mach 1 can be a little scary. When something approaches the speed of sound, it builds up a shock wave in front. The air just can't get out of the way fast enough. When it goes supersonic, right at Mach 1, it can get a little scary and unstabilized. Now, if you're a 7 mag where you punch through that very quickly, then that effect is not felt for very long. Or, by the same token, if you're an SR-71 or an F-16 and you can transit that Mach 1 window there pretty quickly, then you don't suffer those upsets for very long. A pellet, on the other hand, can only be spit out so fast. Some of the sporting goods stores, they have they tout that their pellets with certain coatings and various other things can go 1,400 feet per second. I don't know, but I'm guessing that that's not really that desirable, because that pellet may go supersonic and experience some upset, and then shortly thereafter it's going to go subsonic, and as it goes back through it may experience it again. So I'm thinking that super fast airgun pellets are not really a good thing for that reason. Plus, you lose a little bit of the stealth capability of your airgun, because when that pellet goes supersonic, it's going to crack. It's going to break the sound barrier and make a little mini sonic boom. Again, these theories aren't tested, but I'm thinking that if, for my personal use, if I stay around 900 to 1,000 feet per second, I'm happy with that. I'll just deal with the ballistic drop with the ballistic scope. And of course, you know, the faster a bullet goes, the flatter it's going to shoot, because it's dropping less over a period of time. So, you know, in the high-powered rifle world, fast is usually considered good. It just depends. All right, what we've got set up here is our FX airgun, a good machine rest here, Caldwell I think it is. We're going to laser the target down here on where the gun is, and it's coming in. Exactly at 100 yards. So we've got several different kind of pellets here. We're going to try and see what works out best and see if we can get this thing to shoot at 100 yards. My success criteria is going to be, what I want to do is figure out how far away I can hit up an egg consistently. Now, we do have a little bit of wind today. It's blowing a little bit, so that's going to be a factor. We're not going to get ideal results, but you rarely do in the field, so we'll see how close we can get. We pump the gun up to 190 bar after every shot and try and make the results as consistent as we can. Alright, here's our 100-yard target. We were shooting from back there. So, we got one bullseye here. This one's about an inch off, this one's about an inch off, and this one's about 2.5 inches off. So, that's not bad. That would get a bunny rabbit at 100 yards. I'm hoping I can bring it in a little bit, though. What I'd really like to do is be able to hit consistently something the size of an egg. So we'll reset the target, try some different kind of pellets. Now, like I said, we do have a little bit of wind out here today. Not much, but it doesn't take much. So that could be responsible for this one. I just got a gust of wind. So if you disregard that one, that's a 1-inch group. Alright, here's the results of the other pellets. 1, 2, 3, 4. From there to there is 1, 2, 2.5 inches. So not quite as good. If we would have put the can right at the center, then most all of them would have hit it. So that's not bad. Let's see what the other pellets do. Alright, we've come up with some pretty good groups at 100 yards, close to an inch, maybe a little bit more than that, which is good considering we've got a little bit of wind out here today. Now we're going to do the acid test, see how many shots it takes me to hit that egg at 100 yards. And Okay, well, the results of the test, not too bad. I was unsuccessfully hitting the egg out of 10 shots from 100 yards, so either the wind was kicking up, the pellets aren't really that accurate, or the gun just kind of opens up past 75. So I moved into 75 yards and I hit the egg 50% of the time. Out of 4 shots, I hit it twice. So, not bad. Of course, I demand a lot. An egg at 75 yards is a pretty small target. It doesn't sound like it, but try it and see what happens. At 100, even the best deer rifle I've got is doing well to hit an egg at 100. So, in closing, basically, I think what I've discovered is I really enjoy the air gun thing. You know, we live in some crazy times right now. People are hoarding ammunition. The government's making noises. They're going to take our guns away from us. So the air gun allows you some freedom, I guess you would say, that you wouldn't normally have. Ammo's pretty readily available for it. The power supply is unlimited. It uses air. It's cheap. I would caution those of you that are thinking about getting into this to spend the money up front on a good quality piece of equipment. A lot of the stuff they sell at Cabela's and Sportsman's Warehouse and Bass Pro is junk. It's the same old story. You get what you pay for, and if you buy a quality piece of equipment, then you won't be disappointed. One of the other aspects of the whole air gun thing that I didn't even think about was the stealth aspect of it. Allows you to shoot the gun in places that you normally would be prohibited from. But in my case, a big thing was, come here, Scout, come. This little guy here is Scout, and he's my best friend, and he's got a cold nose on him, but he does have one drawback. When the big guns start going off, he runs for the truck or cover like a scared little girl. And I found out that he's not frightened of the air gun. He hasn't associated the report of the rifle with the instrument itself, so he's just fine with the air rifle. So that opens up a whole new thing to me, because now I can go hunt with my dog. If I go firing off 30-06 or one of the Magnums, then I have to resort to satellites in outer space to go find my dog. With the air gun, I don't have to do that. So me and my buddy can go small game hunting around the house. Don't have to worry about the bad sheriff coming and giving me a ticket for something. And works out pretty good. Now, to the critical listener, you'll notice that sometimes I said grams when I meant grains, and vice versa. Made a few errors in the making of this video. I don't work for anybody. I'm not trying to sell FX rifles. I just like good stuff that works. So cut me a little slack on that. And in the beginning of the video, my brother-in-law's birds making all that racket in the background.